For 2 decades, the United States has been fighting wars. It either quit midstream or they outright lost. And while America bled resources on the battlefield, China has never fired a shot. Yet they managed to win big, dominating economically and expanding its global influence. Mike, is America stuck fighting the wrong battles while China quietly racks up victories without war?
So I think most of the wars that are going on currently are not in the favor of either the U.S. or China, quite frankly.
Agree.
Um, so that's hard to say. That's hard to say. I mean, China has aspirations, to expand their control largely to keep their economy afloat because they've got some economic problems on the horizon. So that's one of the things that they've got to figure out, particularly if the U.S. and or their allies start minimizing China, and that's we'll see if that actually happens or not. But so that's a fear I think of the Chinese. They have to have partners, and we've talked about this on the podcast whether there's going to be two quote global economies.
Hmm.
Hard to tell. Hard to tell at this point. I don't know, but you know, China's an interesting. They're interesting because I think it's a cultural thing to some extent. I think that they're power hungry in a way, but they're also, and then maybe like I said, maybe it's a cultural thing. They're not super inclined to be militarily violent. And that's an interesting, at least they haven't shown that in many hundreds of years, really. So, I don't know. I don't know. They're hard to gauge right now. Obviously, they have technology. So from modern warfare, that's what you need, right? Technology. So, you know, can I see China going in somewhere and being successful in a militaristic campaign? Yeah, because they get the best drones and stuff in the world. I could definitely see them succeeding somewhere, but I just don't. They've taken a different approach for sure than we have.
I think that different approach has allowed them to not only catch up with us as far as technology and things like that, but it's also put question marks in the minds of a lot of our allies. And that's my biggest worry is China has reached a point where whether we agree or not who has the stronger military, I don't think there's a disagreement on them having a major military that we should be concerned about. Uh, and all they need is one or two of our major allies, and the tide is turned.
Hmm.
So I think that the past couple of decades has been more to their advantage. They haven't wasted military, they haven't wasted money. Uh, they've actually been building up their military. We've through war, we've destroyed relationships, we've strained relationships with allies, while China hasn't put too much strain on any of their allies. As a matter of fact, all of their allies for the past couple of decades, they've been constantly telling them, we got your back, we'll help you, we'll help subsidize your oil, we'll give you military
Hmm.
equipment. So China to its allies has looked like a very good friend. We have not looked like a very good friend to a lot of our allies for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the only thing I would say about the China side, though, is that a lot of their allies are weak countries, meaning that they've got a bunch of things in Africa and Middle East and various places where they're not super strong. And the second problem is realistically, where China would want to expand and where their best hope of expanding, quite frankly, is Russia.
Yes.
So, and right now, I say we, us and our allies have portrayed that as the major alliance, right? China, Russia. And ironically, that would be probably where China would want to go after first would be Russia.
Didn't Putin just go visit him again like last week?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Not for the parade, I mean after the parade, like a
probably. Yeah.
few days ago.
Well, because Putin is desperate, right? He needs help.
He needs money, he
Yeah.
needs military
Yeah.
equipment. Yeah. So do you think that China is going to give them what they need?
Well, not without getting something in return. And
Oh, no doubt.
what China generally wants in return is things that, like I said before, help the economy. So whether that's oil or some kind of mineral resources or something like that, they want something. Um, yeah, they're not going to do it for free.
Mike, all of this to me is interconnected with our Constitution in one way or another. We've discussed our military, we've discussed our law enforcement, we've talked about the courts, immigration, free speech. These are all things that are within the boundaries of the Constitution. Would you agree with that?
I definitely would.
What is happening to the Constitution? And what I mean by that is, Mike, I've read the Constitution many times over my lifetime for different reasons, different times, but I've read it a few times. And it's always discussed as though it's like this document that's written in these crazy terms and only the most literate scholarly people in the world can decipher what their true meanings are. But when I read it, everything seems very clear to me. And it's like everybody's looking for some gray area to, stick into the Constitution.
Well, let me say this.